to the Work Trends podcast from Talent Culture. I'm your host, Megan M. Bureau. Every week, I interview interesting people who are reimagining work. And be sure to check out our Work Trends Twitter chat events calendar located at talentculture.com on the podcast page. Welcome, everyone, to the Talent Culture Work Trends podcast, sponsored today by Workhuman. I'm your host, Megan M. Bureau, and today we are talking about a specific day at a specific company, but we also talk about how this day can be yours too. Today we are joined by Derek Irvine, who will share some of the reasons why Employee Appreciation Day is so important at Workhuman and how it can be yours too, beneficial to any business. But first, I'd like to give Derek a proper introduction. Derek Irvine, Workhuman Fellow, helps clients, including some of the world's most admired companies, leveraging proven recognition strategies and best practices to elevate employee engagement, increase retention, and improve bottom-line results. While he currently leads the company's strategy and consulting services division, Derek oversaw the company's global marketing and rewards functions from 2000 to 2010, growing Workhuman from a startup to the unicorn organization it is today. Derek is one of the world's foremost experts on employee recognition and engagement and continuous performance management, helping business leaders set a higher vision and ambition for their company culture. He is a renowned speaker and co-author of several books, as well as writings featured across top magazines. Happy that you are here with me today, Derek. How are you?
I'm very well indeed, Megan. Thank you for the invite.
I know you are a world traveler. Where are you today?
Well, I'm originally from Ireland, as you might tell from the accent, and I've spent many years living and working in different countries. But today I live and work in Spain.
Lucky you!
It's a good one, all right. We have good weather here, one of the key attractions.
I'll be coming to visit you, in about 8 hours. So listen, let's dive right into it. Why is Employee Appreciation Day important to Workhuman?
Well, first of all, to say thank you to you for spotlighting Employee Appreciation Day. It's important not only to Workhuman, it's important to all of us as a reminder of the need to appreciate not only employees, but indeed to appreciate everybody. It's a day that started in around about 1995 by an organization called Recognition Professionals International. But the reminder is that we should be doing this every day. It's not only on this day, clearly, because the power of appreciation, the power of thanking, is enormous. And I've no doubt we'll talk about just how enormous. Because when we receive enough of that thanks, it can make us all feel better. When somebody comes and sincerely thanks you at work, it can make the difference between a great day and a bad day. Actually, it's like a natural medicine. It boosts our well-being. It releases happy hormones. So it's almost like a wellness day, Employee Appreciation Day, because it's going to boost our health. And you know, Megan, the sad thing about it is that from Workhuman and Gallup research, it shows that 80% of people don't get enough thanks in their work, therefore making them more likely to quit, they're disengaged, and generally a lower level of well-being. So this is something important. This is something we can fix.
Oh my gosh, huge. And I'm feeling better already just talking to you. I got to be honest with you. I'm like, muscles are starting to relax. But I have to tell you, I'm kicking it old school for a minute. For all of you who know me well enough to be dangerous, I'm a Gen Xer. So I was brought up in talent in HR when it was meant to be really formal and almost like non-human. And the good news for all of us today is that we want the opposite of that, right? We want this every day, and we want it to feel genuine, right?
Absolutely. I mean, as you mentioned at the outset, I'm co-author of a number of books on this. One of the books called Making Work Human. And I really want to meet the person that wrote the book Making Work Unhuman. Because that's, I'm a similar generation, and that's how work was for centuries. Work was, almost like slavery. You had to come into work, put on a face, provide either your physical skill, your mental skill, but what was not fully appreciated was just your human self for who you are. So thankfully that's changed greatly and continuing to change greatly.
Well, I have to ask you, how does Workhuman celebrate all this?
Yeah, so we for sure celebrate on the day. And in fact, it's not the only day that we make a particular marker out of celebrating. There's also a World Gratitude Day, which comes up in the end of the year. So we make a big splash out of that too. But on Employee Appreciation Day, we will have recognition for all of our employees. We will have food. We will get together and talk and just see each other. But as I said at the beginning, for us, really, every day is Employee Appreciation Day. And, that's a key differentiator for Workhuman. We really believe that. It's every day needs to be Employee Appreciation Day. And so much so that at Workhuman, we see ourselves as having a very fast-forward reward strategy, where there's three foundational blocks in our reward strategy. One, of course, is fair pay, that people feel fairly and appropriately paid for the work that they do relative to, the marketplace and competitive set. Secondly, is that all of our employees are owners in the company. They have a stake as we're not a publicly listed company, but we're a private company, and there are opportunities for people to have effectively phantom shares, if you like, in the company, stock units which will have value. So ownership is the second part. And the third part is recognition. This spontaneous surprise when I do something great as a human, I live the values of Workhuman, I bring in a key milestone, that I know I'm going to get thanked for it. And as a result, what we're doing with our reward strategy is creating a continuous dialogue. So rather than reward be a HR policy, like you said, old school, we decided you better be grateful we're giving it to you, we create a dialogue that has a number of different elements. You're paid, you have a sense of true ownership in our success, and spontaneously thanking you as you do great things. So that's how we celebrate throughout the year.
I love the word spontaneous here today. It really makes me happy. So, what are actionable steps a company can take to create a culture of, recognition?
I think the other really important word, aside from spontaneous, is intentionalism. Because when I speak to groups of employees or managers, very often people will say to me, "Oh, we completely agree with this. This is super important. I'm going to do more of it tomorrow." The trouble is that the day-to-day to-do list, the budget requests, the binders of folders, they take over your day. And the thanking slips down constantly the to-do list. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it next week. So intentionalism is really important to bring this to life. So whilst we can teach about the importance of recognition, you've got to put in place a drumbeat that makes sure that intentionalism is happening, because otherwise it just slips off the agenda. So that's one first important thing to do. Then the other element is to bring everybody into the mix, not just relying upon managers. Because again, the old school approach to recognition was that the manager needed to spot the greatness. Maybe a committee decided who should be recognized. But in a modern approach to things, everybody gets a chance to spot the greatness, and everybody gets a chance to pass that appreciation and thanks across the organization in what we call peer-to-peer social recognition. Two really important aspects. Make it intentional, make it peer-to-peer social recognition. And then, of course, you've got to put a budget behind it if you're making it intentional. And finally, is to focus on the ROI, because there is bundles of research that I would say Workhuman is an absolute leader in this. About 10 years ago, we decided to really double down on investing in our data analytics and our organizational psychology resources to be able to look at the data and say, what's the ROI of this? What's the impact? And when you share that ROI, particularly to the CFO types and the C-suite, it just opens doors galore, because now it's a win-win for everybody. Everybody's feeling better, and it's having a real impact on the ROI of the organization too.
I mean, what would you tell companies looking for this ROI? How can they benchmark to know if it's really successful?
Yeah, so as I said, we really doubled down on this about 10 years ago, investing considerably. So we have a vast array of Workhuman client results, real in-action results. And recently, we also partnered with Gallup to conduct a very comprehensive international survey to understand the impact that recognition was having on employees. So we have both. We have both the voice of employees through survey, and we have real live data. And those results are really very impressive, I have to say to you. And it's not only just the receiving of thanks, which you would automatically say receiving thanks is going to be great, but it is also the giving. Giving thanks is a very positive emotion too, and it has an impact. So the sort of things that companies could be looking out for are like some of the results we see, that those that say they get enough gratitude and thanks, they're 90% more likely to be thriving in the workplace. They're more likely to have higher spirits. They're generally going to be in a better social well-being state. They're 70% less likely to be burnt out. So that's a really big cost if you're burnt out employees, especially in today's difficult economy. They're 60% more likely to stay with you. So if you've got expensive talent, you're in technology, you're in pharmaceuticals, you don't want to be losing that talent. So 60% more likely to stay if you're giving thanks to your employee, the magic number being about 6 to 8 times per year. I mean, that's a big financial ROI if you can have impact on reducing burnout and increasing intention to stay.
Yeah. And I mean, it takes a little while to put together the strategy and being intentional, as you say. But once you're in it, everybody, it could take 5 minutes during your day to do this. When you're talking this many times a year, everybody do the math. It's not hard.
It's not hard at all. And the other thing, Megan, is it's completely human. We know how to do this. I mean, I have 4 kids at home. They're double twins, 2 girls and 2 boys. And when I think about, the love I give them, if you like, if I was rationing my love, I'm saying, no, we're going to have an annual love feedback event. I'm only going to give you love 4 times a year. I mean, they would be off the rails. It would be ridiculous. So thanking in the workplace is a bit like how we love and indeed constantly thank in our human lives, in our day-to-day lives. We know how to do it. It's instinctively there. But as you mentioned earlier, the traditional old school organization, there didn't seem to be space for that. But in today's modern workplace, there's boundless space for it. We've just got to open the doors, give the permission. And everybody knows how to do this. People take over themselves as a consequence.
All right, so I'm super jazzed about Employee Appreciation Day, and if you're out there in the Work Trends community, I want you involved. Come do this with us. So I'm going to ask Derek, what do you recommend employers do getting employee buy-in for ideas on how they want to celebrate Employee Appreciation Day?
Yeah, well, it could very well be a great day to launch your all-year initiative. So, maybe that's the day where you announce, look, we're not just going to celebrate it today. Yes, there's a message. Yes, there's a gathering today. But let it also be the marker where we're going to do this all year. We're going to change our habits. We're going to make a culture of appreciation and recognition be something we do all year. And here's how. I think that would be my top recommendation, because now you're putting in place something that will last forever and that will pivot your organization in a positive trajectory, getting the types of results that I saw earlier. Especially in today's difficult environment with so many geopolitical things, difficult economic news. Quite simply, the financial contract isn't enough. People need to know that they have a psychological contract in work too, where they're seen for the humans they are. They're really appreciated for the humans they are, and they're given constant encouragement during the working week, working month. So that would be my key recommendation. Take the day, Employee Appreciation Day, as the day when you're saying, we're going to change how we do this, and we're going to make it work every day from here on in.
And for anybody out there who thinks it's cheesy just to have one day, as Derek just said, I'm totally on board, by the way, it's the start of something. It doesn't have to feel forced. I love that. So let's talk a little bit about some of the drivers behind employee well-being. How is this directly linked to, say, productivity, contentment, belonging?
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of different definitions within well-being, which I think in itself is interesting. There's financial well-being, and everybody understands the impact of that when you're not financially well. There's physical well-being. There's also those social well-being. What is my social circle like? There's community connectedness well-being. How well connected am I to, my birds of a feather, if you like, to community in general? And I think as organizations, we've been pretty good at focusing on physical well-being. The gyms, the quitting smoking, the, various initiatives in that sphere of things. These days, a lot of organizations also looking at financial well-being. But the others are vitally important because human connectedness is something that just keeps us going. It's part of, it's like food to humans. If we don't have human connectedness, then your humanity slips away. So I suppose that's where Workhuman and our clients are focused on, is creating genuine moments of human connection all the time. And what we've discovered over the decades is that word thanks is extremely powerful at creating human connection, because it says, Megan, I just want to pause for a moment and say, I see you. I saw what you did, and I want to thank you for what you did, because it had the following impact. Others saw too. Through the use of a platform like ours, the technology allows others to see that thanking moment, allows others to add their congratulation moments. We create this human connectedness as a result. Relationships that might otherwise never have existed. So that's really the very strong play into well-being and how appreciation plays into that. Of course, when you make people feel well and better, that boosts productivity, it boosts content and general engagement in the workplace.
Final question is on technology, because we're all about the future of work looking forward. I mean, how can employers introduce beneficial tech to enhance work culture?
Yeah, so it might seem kind of an odd thing, that you need technology to help with thanking. A lot of people scratch their heads, and when I'm leading workshops, often managers will say, I'm good at letter writing, note writing. I'm good at walking the floor and patting people on the back. And I say, congratulations. I absolutely celebrate that. But it comes back to the key word I mentioned earlier, the intentionalism, and the fact that, without that intentionalism, it slips down the to-do list constantly. And that's where the technology comes into play, because it becomes not only a reminder, it becomes a nudge, but then it becomes a fantastic repository of all the great stories of human connection that are happening in your organization. You have this enormous data pool of literally, in some of our clients, we're talking, 10,000 human connection moments happening across the globe per day, celebrating different values in that organization, celebrating moving forward the strategy. And that data can be super powerful at giving a kind of an x-ray of where are we today in terms of our culture? What words are people using? How are spirits today? What skills are being celebrated? Are there particular leaders that are being celebrated for particular skills that maybe we hadn't seen? Are there dark spots in the organization where they're receiving no thanks and no appreciation at all? That data becomes super powerful, and of course, that's what the technology is there to enable. It's to enhance the work culture and bring about that intentionalism.
Derek Irvine, I got to thank you for all of this sage. Appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for listening to the Work Trends Podcast, your favorite source for all that's new and exciting in the world of work. If you love what we do here, make sure to let us know. Share this podcast with anyone you know, your friends, your colleagues, your mom, your dad. And don't forget to tune in for our next episode. I'll catch up with you next time. Thanks to listening to Work Trends from Talent Culture. Join us every Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern for a live Twitter chat with our podcast guest. To learn more about guests featured on today's show, visit the show notes for this episode at talentculture.com and help us spread the word. Subscribe to Work Trends wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a rating, review in iTunes. Share Work Trends with your coworkers, your friends. Look forward to it. See you next time.